Going to give you a chance to see something about American life you could never see any other way. You may remember 2 years ago, we showed you some daily differences in being black and white in America. Well, tonight, how is it different if you're a man or a woman? Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace decided to conduct a kind of experiment about our attitudes and their consequences. The results of his investigation may surprise you.
20 years after women took to the streets to fight for equality with men, they've won some battles, but they haven't yet won the war. Studies show women still earn only 73 cents for every dollar a man makes. And they often pay more for things like cars and medical care.
We haven't come nearly far enough.
Judith Lichtman is president of the Women's Legal Defense Fund, which handles gender discrimination cases.
Even after all the progress and all the laws, women every day face discrimination in their everyday walk of life.
We decided to find out for ourselves what's really going on. What would happen if we sent a man and woman into identical situations? So we hired Chris Williams and Julie Gilchrist, two professional testers who spent years in Chicago exploring racial discrimination. Julie and Chris are both in their late 20s, both graduates of the University of Wisconsin, and both not certain our experiment will work.
I'm pretty skeptical that we'll be able to pick up, at least on film, some of the subtleties of gender discrimination.
I'm not sure exactly if we're going to find any clear-cut discrimination, but we may see patterns.
We chose Cincinnati for our experiment, a city known for its conservative family values in the heart of Middle America. What we're doing here in Cincinnati is have our testers pose as two people just moving into town, going through the process of getting established. They're looking for jobs, shopping for cars, even asking about playing golf at a public course. Well, we wait to see if there's any difference in the way they're treated. We wire Chris and Julie for sound and send them out with our hidden cameras. We also rig a van so we can watch from nearby. They start by shopping for cars. Studies show that women are often discriminated against by car salesmen. One survey found women being quoted a higher price than men twice as often as the other way around, and by an average of almost $400. At one dealership, Chris and Julie both go in asking about one of the cars on the lot. It's a demo with 4,000 miles on it.
What would we be talking about in price? Just to give
because
me a feel.
It's a demo, they would work with you on the price.
But watch how the sales manager deals with Julie, turning the liability of a slightly used car into an asset.
If that car were like brand new, coming right off the lot, instead of having 4,000 miles on it, what?
Same price.
Same price? So technically it's just a new car no matter what.
Yeah. The nice thing about getting a demo is the car is already broken in. You know, new cars have to be broken in.
Different treatment is one thing, but as we've said, the real complaint is about different prices. We decide to go to one of Marge Schott's dealerships. She's the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, who's been suspended from baseball for racial and ethnic slurs. She advertises that her people treat the gals as well as the guys. If not, they can punch the salesperson. Julie picks a Geo tracker at the front of the lot as we watch from a van parked across the street.
What is the price you have on this?
$99.95.
$99.95. That's the first price the salesman quotes. Julie then asks to take a test drive, but the salesman says he needs to drive the car into the street because of insurance regulations.
Is this standard that you have to drive off the lot in the vehicles?
Yeah, our insurance is... They figure we got a couple $1 million worth of inventory. You're probably not real familiar with the vehicle.
Julie negotiates for half an hour and gets him to come down from his initial price of $99.95.
I mean, what's the best price I could get on that?
Oh, yeah.
From you?
I mean, I'm gonna...
I mean, like, how low can I go down to? 8s?
I'd say 4 on the...
No?
You know, because I have somebody that's interested
Get you for about 94 or 4 grand down. Those cars are hot.
$9,400. That's Julie's best deal, knocking $600 off the price. Now, it's Chris's turn. Watch the salesman's first offer to him.
92, 93.
92, 93.
I mean, we'll do whatever it takes during your business, but...
Within minutes of walking in the door, Chris's first price is $200 better than Julie's best price. And Chris isn't finished yet.
Buzz it around a little bit.
The salesman lets him take the car off the lot by himself. Not even a mention of insurance regulations. And when Chris returns, the salesman comes down in price even further.
You're thinking around what, 89, 90,000?
Yeah.
That's fair.
$8,900, $500 better than Julie's deal. We take Chris and Julie to a park nearby to show them the tape. Julie is annoyed that Chris got a better deal, but what really bothers her are their test drives.
Yeah. Just go that way. Wait a minute. At the light, make a right.
He's gonna let you drive without him.
What do you think?
He wouldn't even let me drive the car off the lot. I mean, even with him in the car, I mean, what was I going to do? You know, take out the front line of cars? Well, now I might now, if I were to go back.
Should we go back?
Yeah.
Kevin, hi. Chris Wallace from ABC News. How are you?
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I want to ask you about a little experiment that we're doing. Do you treat men and women customers the same here?
I try to.
We tell him that we sent our 2 testers in undercover to see how they'd be treated. He explains he let Chris drive off the lot, but not Julie, because he was busy when Chris came in. As for the different prices he quoted them, it does seem remarkable to us that she walks in, he walks in a few hours later, and he gets a $500 cheaper price.
Well, prices can be different from 1 hour to the next. It all depends on the mood of the boss, what we're doing, how busy it is, how many cars we're selling.
No sex bias here.
No, not at all.
Is there a difference in selling a car to a man and a woman?
There's a difference in the way that you do need to treat them. You need to be a little slower with women generally because women are more think about a type of people than men are.
So how do you treat a woman differently?
It depends on the situation. I mean, I'm a little slower with women. I'm a little less technical and a little bit more about the things that they want to know.
We showed this and all the other tapes in our experiment to Judith Lichtman and to William Bilby, chairman of the sociology department at the University of California at Santa Barbara.
As an individual, he knows nothing about her. He doesn't know how hard she negotiates with anybody else over other kinds of things, with her boss or whatever. But he's behaving towards her based on just her gender.
Any legal protection for Julie?
Virtually none. There is no federal law for sure that protects her against someone steering her to a higher price.
Would you want ice and water in the door?
We send Julie and Chris to a variety of stores to shop for appliances, jewelry, and computers. And in those places, they're treated the same. But what's surprising is how often they're treated differently. A study in New York last year found that women pay, on average, 27% more than men for dry cleaning and laundry. So we have Chris and Julie take identical shirts to the cleaners to see what it will cost. For her.
$350.
For him.
$2.25.
That's right, $1.25 less for the same shirt. The golf course is historically a bastion of male dominance. Some private courses don't allow women to play at all. And even when women are allowed on the course, they're generally considered less skilled than men and relegated to less desirable playing times, such as midday. Chris and Julie go to a public golf course to see about tee times. Julie goes first.
When is the earliest tea time you'd have tomorrow?
He checks the book.
I can get it to some 11:30.
11:40? And Friday would be?
Friday we're booked.
You're booked, okay.
Moments later, Chris goes in and asks for the earliest time.
Tomorrow we've got a few openings. How many people are you going to have?
Just 2.
We've got a 9:35.
9:35, 2 hours earlier than Julie. Then he asks about Friday. Remember, the clerk in the background told Julie she can't get on the course at all that day.
Friday's filled down to 410.
Down to 410.
But as he keeps looking,
Well, we have a 7:30 Friday morning. There's a twosome opening.
Chris gets 2 tee times when Julie can't get any. Later, we show the videotape to our testers. That day, as you had the experience, what did you think?
I came out and Julie came with a 2-way radio and said, well, how'd it go? And I said, well, I've got an early tea time tomorrow. And she was appalled. There was a silence on the radio. And she said, I can't believe it. I couldn't even get in.
It's just illogical. It was absurd to me that I was not allowed to golf at this golf course, and for no other reason than that I'm a woman.
Of all the areas we examine, perhaps the one that most seriously affects women's lives is bias in the workplace. In recent years, women have been filing and winning sex discrimination suits against some of the country's biggest corporations. Although more women are working than ever before, studies show they are slower to advance, and in many businesses hit glass ceilings.
Yes, hello, my name's Chris Williams, and I'm calling about your ad in the paper.
So we go through the Help Wanted section in a Cincinnati newspaper. and have Chris and Julie answer an ad for 20 positions available, everything from sales to management. We give our testers similar backgrounds, experience in litigation support or paralegal work. But when Julie goes in, the job interviewer immediately talks to her about being a secretary.
Basically, like your experience, like answering phones, doing filing, things like that.
Yeah.
And even then, he isn't optimistic he has a job for her.
I can't promise you anything, but you know, I'll process the application. I don't do the final hiring.
But watch what happens when Chris goes in. The interviewer talks to him about a much bigger job.
We need help in our customer service and delivery end of our position. I can't get you into management right away because I really don't know much about you.
Sure.
But, you know, if you're willing, open-minded to learn our business, we're willing to work with you.
As the interview goes on, he begins to give Chris the hard sell.
Well, I want you to come and look at our business for a full day.
Okay.
I don't want you to make a decision right now on a 2-minute appointment.
Okay.
Are you free on Thursday to come in?
When you look at the tape now, and you see your interview and Chris's, what do you think?
There's a world of difference between his attitude towards me and his attitude towards Chris.
How does that make you feel?
I'm angry. I'm frustrated.
Judith Lichtman also sees a big difference in the way they were treated.
That man walked in and he began talking about managerial jobs. She walked in and he was talking about filing.
But can't this be a man in an office who looks at two people and just sees him doing one thing and her doing another, making a judgment as any personnel person might make?
Not if the only difference between them is their gender.
So we go back to see the job interviewer. Do you treat men and women any differently here?
No.
How about people coming in for jobs?
Not at all.
We tell the man that we sent Chris and Julie in applying for the same jobs with almost identical qualifications. Your approach to the two of them was totally different.
Well, maybe that's why I felt the position that might be better for them.
How come?
Just a judgment, I guess.
Could I show you something? We show the man our tapes of his meetings with Chris and Julie. He asks that the camera be shut off while he watches. Afterwards, he says he's had a change of heart.
I'm brand new in the business.
Right.
I make mistakes. And sorry, it just happens I made a mistake there.
But the apology doesn't last long. As soon as we turn our cameras off, he explains that he would never want a man answering his phone. We wonder whether this is just an isolated case. So we answer another ad, a lawn care company looking for territory managers. We give Chris a background as an office supply manager. We make Julie more qualified for the job, the manager of a floral shop.
Hi, yes, I was responding to the ad in the paper for territory managers.
But when Julie gets there, she's given a typing test and meets one of the bosses.
What brings you to Cincinnati?
My fiance got a job here.
Oh, okay. And what type of business is he working in?
He spends more time talking about Julie's fiancé than about her.
Well, we're not here to talk about him. We're here to talk about you, right? What is his name, by the way?
Despite her previous experience as a manager, Julie is told about a job as a receptionist.
So we need someone, number one, who has the capability of answering 7 or 8, 9 lines at a time.
As for her salary,
this job is starting off, depends upon experience, anywhere from $6 and up.
Compare that with what happens to Chris. While Julie is given a typing test, he gets an aptitude test. And there is instant camaraderie.
You still play soccer, tennis, and snowball?
Yes, I do.
That's good. Keeps you young and energetic.
Chris gets a rundown of the job they both applied for, territory manager.
During the time you're trained, we bring you in, you go through 1 day of training in-house, and then you've got 5 days out in the field, trained with a manager.
And while Julie's job pays $6 an hour, Chris is told he could make a lot more.
You can make anywhere from $300 to $450 to $500 a week. It just depends upon what you want to do.
As they watch the tape, Julie is disturbed.
So we need someone, number one, who has the capability of answering 7 or 8, 9 lines at a time.
You were shaking your head.
That's just, don't even get me started. That's outrageous.
You're steamed, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm very, very steamed about this. I mean, if this situation had played out to the logical conclusion, I probably would have been Chris's secretary.
He would have been the manager, making $500 a week.
And I would have been handling all these incoming calls at $6 an hour.
Back at the lawn care business, the boss says he was running 2 ads and assumed Julie had applied for the secretarial job. He says women don't do well as territory manager, which requires some physical labor. But even so...
Hey, it doesn't matter who it is, as long as they can do the job. Why would I want to discriminate when people are so hard to get this day and time?
Let me ask you, did you talk to any men about being a receptionist?
I certainly did.
And who did you choose?
I chose a woman.
Did you ever fill the territory manager's job?
Sure I have.
Did you fill them with men or women?
They were filled with men.
After showing all the tapes to our experts, we note there were differences, not only in the way Chris and Julie were treated, but also in the way men and women on our team reacted to those differences. We've shown these tapes to a lot of men over the last few weeks, and I have to tell you, a lot of them don't see the problem.
I don't really find that so surprising. When men like Chris are advantaged, it's very hard for them to see that other people are disadvantaged at their expense, and I think social change takes a long time.
It shows how taken for granted these cultural stereotypes about gender are. This is the way it's been for men and women for many years. What's wrong with that?
Our two testers also have some final thoughts. Chris says one of the toughest things about sex bias is how subtle it is. That only an experiment like ours can show Julie whether she's being treated fairly.
She'd never know unless she was able to, in our situation, sit down and look at a tape and compare to the way I was treated.
Seeing the same person treat me as if I was an annoying fly on the wall and treat Chris as if he were, manna from heaven. Ooh, that's bad. That's very difficult to stomach.
So what does the law offer? As you heard, no laws protect from higher prices on cars. Employment discrimination is illegal, but those cases are hard to prove. And on the golf course, well, it's every woman for herself.